too for a second.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Did you bring the whoopee cushion? And he's not wearing pants. And we're live. We're live, Noah. You're not wearing pants.
I know. Sometimes it happens.
You can't be playing with the whoopee cushion toy.
Hey, Noah. Good to see you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Your Creative Journey Live.
Love you.
Paul loves his son and his daughter. So glad to have everybody here tonight. I've been checking in with people. Hey, gang. Good to see you. I think that they missed most of that, Paul. So I think you're okay. Who knows?
Oh, bummer. So do you like the way I sound better right now?
So here's the interesting thing. So actually, we're going to turn to thank you, YouTube folks, for joining us tonight. We super appreciate it. We're going to do a little bit of a test right now. So Paul's got some new, hey, producer Craig, thank you for joining us tonight, buddy. Talk about last minute stuff, right?
Well, here's the thing, Kevin, like this isn't a new mic. It's just like, it's Jamie's mic. So it's the good one.
Well, yeah.
And this is not what you're hearing. This is what goes into my recorder.
So, oh, that's interesting. What happens when you...
So when we do the show,
yeah,
you're hearing usually what's coming out of this.
Uh-huh.
But I send you the file from my mic.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh gosh, I'm even talking right now. Thank you for reminding me this right now, because I need to record like all of this while I'm talking. Oh my gosh, Paul, I would have gone through this entire thing. Yeah, Melissa's saying it sounds a little bit echoey. That's what it sounds like. So it almost, you know what I mean? But it doesn't sound echoey as much as it sounds like you're just it sounds like you're in the far part of the room.
You know what that is? It's this room, we're like redoing it and there's nothing in here. So it's just echo. But speaking of nothing in here, I don't have a memory card. I will be right back.
Everybody, you get to see how this stuff happens. You know, it's interesting when we're putting together this for those of you that are interested in doing podcasting. Let me just give you a little look behind the scenes of what we do. And I'm just getting ready to record this, as a matter of fact. So hold on here. I'm recording this. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. You guys are rock stars. And I also have to make sure that I record this. So when we are recording a podcast, usually, just to give you guys a heads up, first of all, if you're interested in doing podcasting, you don't have to get too complicated up top. Usually you can just use, I encourage people, even if they just use the mic that's on their laptop to do this, then do that. Right? The biggest thing is about just moving forward and doing it. But for you guys to understand how we do it here, for a long time, I have a couple of instruments that I use that I won't get into the details with. I have a mic that's attached to a preamp thing that goes into the computer. So I'm recording on a program that's called Audacity in the background. For years, I've also used this little doodad, which is called an H4 Zoom mic. That's Paul has a similar device. He has a newer generation. There he is. He's got a new, what is it, H6?
H6. This just has 6 different channels.
So what's happened, and then also I have, so that's a backup that I have. And then also I'm recording the Zoom call as well. So for the most part, when you're hearing the audio podcast, usually what you're hearing is what Paul is speaking into in his H6. We take that track that he sends me afterwards. And then the thing that I am digitally recording into my computer as we're doing this live, we take all of that. So anyway, whole bunch of nerd talk tonight. I hope that's okay.
That's all we do.
That's all we do. I would just highly encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you've ever thought of doing one of these things, just do it. Even if it's just like a little 5-minute, get together. Noah's in. Noah is in
right now. Okay, go.
He's rocking.
I love you.
Oh,
you're not wearing pants.
Hey, buddy. I love you, pal.
I love you, buddy. Go downstairs, okay? You can't be in here right now. I love you. Yeah, take your whoopee cushion downstairs.
Hey, Paul, is Jamie home at all tonight or no?
She's home. She's helping Everly. Everly works today, so she's doing her homework.
Oh my gosh.
So she's helping Everly with her homework, and she's probably saying, go upstairs with daddy, and daddy's saying, go downstairs with mommy.
That's okay. God bless you.
So Hunter's poetry reading is at 9.
Great. Okay. So we're gonna, you know what? We're gonna jet through this, baby, because that's how we do it. Hey, if anybody has any questions that you want to ask us as we're doing this tonight, please feel free to type it in. No worries at all on the YouTube stream. I think we're just gonna get right to it, Paul, to talk about what we're gonna talk about tonight, which is about getting out of the funk and how to get back to creating. Is that what I titled this? What did I title this? I don't even know what I titled this. Get out of the funk, techniques to raise your spirit and get creating. That's a good
I feel like that's what we did a couple weeks ago.
I think it's something that we have to do consistently.
Okay.
I know I have to do it. Is that, oh gosh. Well,
are you having a fire alarm?
Guess what? Hey, everybody.
Is that a fire alarm?
Yes. Yes, of course it is. Because my son decided to cook, and he's cooking chicken in the house. And so as he's cooking chicken in the house, all of the alarms are going off.
So here we go. We're going to jump right into it. Ladies and gentlemen.
So Paul, why don't you take care of this for a second while I go turn off some alarms?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Your Creative Journey podcast. This is a perfect lead into what we're talking about, which is getting out of the funk. Whether the funk is fire alarms going off or your son walking around in his undies. That's never a funk. Here's a funny story about fire alarms. When Jamie and I bought our first condo, we were so every time we've purchased like a property, we spend the first night in it just on air mattresses with no power because the power's not on yet. So I bring a laptop, we watch a movie on a laptop and drink a bottle of wine, order a pizza, candlelight, air mattresses, nothing in the in the home. Our first apartment, we got there, and because the power was out all night long, the fire alarm was going blip, blip every 30 seconds, just an ear-piercing blip. Just telling a story real quick, Kevin.
Yes.
And we're just like, oh my God, like we're not going to be able to sleep. So finally we ended up like getting to sleep, and so the next day the power company comes out and turns on the power, but the thing keeps going. Bleep. We're like, what the heck? Geniuses. That's because that's a low battery.
Yeah.
Not there's no power in the house thing. So we could have just fixed it instead of spending the entire night listening to this.
It's crazy.
It was fun.
I think we're good. Okay. Here's what happens in my home occasionally.
I love this.
You know what? And this is the thing. Maybe this is just the podcast, man. Just going with it. Who knows? Who knows? We're probably just going to splice all this stuff together.
That's why I tried to do the intro before you got up and left.
Thanks, buddy. Here I was chatting on YouTube beforehand saying that Maddie's cooking dinner for his girlfriend and Melissa's saying, oh, that's sweet and everything. We have a house where the ventilation system isn't great, and we've got very sensitive alarms. So if you don't ventilate it, forget it. And now what have we learned? We have learned, hey, when dad's recording a podcast, don't cook.
I think that's just going to be like words to live by. If you don't ventilate it, forget it.
I think
that applies to a lot of aspects of life, especially hygiene.
Yes.
And bedroom.
Yes.
What? Huh?
Yes.
Nothing. That's fine.
It all works. Hey, let's do this. Let's do a little intro. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Let's rock and roll it. I think I'm going to intro it this time.
Do it.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Creative Journey. I'm Kevin Gregg.
I'm not Paul Carganilla anymore.
Who are you today?
This is
it. It finally happened. It finally happened. You're not Paul Carganilla. Who do you think you are today?
Today I'm Paul Michael Carganilla because
Yeah.
I've just been this whole start of the podcast is when my mom would use my middle name and Paul Michael.
Yes.
And we've gotten off to a really good start.
Well, it's been very interesting for those of you that are listening on the audio podcast. We've already had fire alarms go off. We've had kids come in without their pants on. It's been a lot, man. It's how it goes. When we're recording this. Oh, by the way, this is the show that is designed to inspire you so that you take action with your creative work, whether you're an actor, writer, director, dancer, singer, musician, painter, finger painter, dancing through the sprinkler artist. What other things can you think of, Paul?
Whether you like making patterns out of dead leaves in the street, or you love power washing in different designs of the driveway, this podcast is for you.
That's right. It's a wonderful podcast. We've had a very interesting night tonight. We're streaming this on a Monday night instead of a Tuesday night. Why? I'll tell you why. Because the Dodgers are in the World Series. That's why. That's a wonderful thing. And there's a good chance that they may win it on Tuesday night. Why would we record a live podcast and force Paul to do this? There's no way, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we recorded during game 1, which was fine. But tomorrow might be like the closeout game of the World Series. Might be, knocking on wood.
Amen.
Last time I was sitting here doing a live show and the Dodgers were playing, they blew a game 5 real bad. Game 4 real bad. So we're just going to think good thoughts, and tomorrow's going to be a great time no matter what.
Amen. That is true. But we're glad to do this tonight. Hey, we got some stuff that we're going to talk about, but as always, we like to start out the week. What was the best thing that happened to you this week? I mean, is it the Dodgers or is it more than that?
Kevin, I haven't even thought about it. You go first. Kevin, what was the best thing?
I'm going to tell you what the best thing was this week. The best thing that happened for me this week, and we'll get into this in a minute in our show about getting out of a funk. I will tell you some highlights for me have included taking some nice long walks with my son, Duncan, in our neighborhood, going out with him and going out with our dog. And I had a moment where sometimes you have to just sit in gratitude, and something that I sat in gratitude with the other day was I was looking out our front window. We rent a home in Studio City. We've been up here for a while, but I was just realizing like it's a very beautiful view of lush green trees in the area, even though our Studio City area is pretty busy and our street is pretty busy. But when you look out our front window, there's some stuff. And, we didn't have that for a while in the earlier stage of our marriage and where we're living. I actually remember we were living in apartments in Santa Ana. And I remember 11:30 on Saturday nights, man, you'd hear that pop, 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 pop. You'd hear that gunfire go off and stuff, the high gang activity that was down there. And listen, I have to tell you, with working class families in Santa Ana, they were the most down to earth, awesome, lovely people. But what was not lovely and awesome in our apartment building was we lived on the second floor in this apartment complex, and you looked right outside of our patio window, and all you saw was just a white wall of another apartment that was there. That's all you got to see.
Yeah.
And we were there for a couple of years. And I was sitting the other day in our front room in Studio City, and I thought, you know what, God, thank you. Thank you for this view that you've given me. So those are a couple of highlights for me from this last week. How about you?
Well, I do want to touch on that real quick, because I have the same kind of thing. Like, we're so blessed. Like and I hate talking about our blessings while so much crap is going on. So much crap is going on in the world, and so many people are going through really tough times. But it's like, I look around at our home, and I had this moment on Sunday morning where I realized, like, I have my own drawer for my toothbrushes and toothpaste and shaving stuff. Like,
that's amazing.
Like, it's the dumbest thing, but I started to think of that. And then I thought of our first apartment when we got married 12 years ago, which was in Long Beach, right across from the college, the Cal State. And like, our bathroom was so small that if like anyone was in the bathroom, you couldn't open the door. It opened in, And if anybody was either standing at the sink or using the toilet, you couldn't even open the door.
Yeah.
And so I just had that moment of like, so much to be grateful for. Like, it's a toothpaste drawer.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, and that's one of the things. I think probably my highlight of the week was my toothpaste drawer. But also like you, I usually on the weekends, like we're going because we have the Saturday show, Friday night show.
Yeah.
And then Sunday we're catching up with stuff. This Sunday I had a Kevin Gregg Sunday where I just sat. I didn't disconnect because I like.
We'll get you there. We'll get you there. Dude.
We'll try. But the weather, like while I love summer and I love the heat and I love sitting outside by the kid pool, I just sat outside and it was gloomy and chilly, and I wore my sweater and I drank my coffee and I just enjoyed my backyard and didn't have to put the shade on, put the sunscreen on, and had nothing to do. I had nothing to do. And I was like, this is what Kevin does on Sundays.
That's correct.
This is amazing. So yeah, I mean, taking time, it's funny how like different things get you out of funks, right?
Yes.
And sometimes doing nothing can get you out of a funk.
Well, it really can. That's our topic that we're discussing tonight, which is getting out of your funk and doing what you need to do to get back to getting to your creative work. You'll see that we have a theme that's been going on with these shows over the last couple of weeks. I'll be transparent with you, Paul. I mean, usually the reason why I'm talking about something, teaching about something, or writing about something, because it's something that I'm usually going through myself. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sort of one of those guys that sometimes people are, I'm an audio visual learner, but I'm also someone that learns by experiencing it and also sharing the experience and sort of teaching along the way, you know? And I do want to comment on that, which is like here in Southern California, because it's so rare that we get these changes that happen in the season for us. And when you have, you know, I'm sure somebody that's in the Midwest or, you know, the Northwest is going, what are you talking about? That sounds terrible. For us in Southern California, when we get a little bit of, you know, overcast or some kind of, you know, thunderclouds or stuff, it feels good because, you know, we just don't get it as much. The sunshine is great, but we need a little bit of change up with that. You know, man, I've talked about it over the last couple of weeks, Paul, and there's been these moments, and it's kind of why I want to be transparent on this show and not make it feel like everything is bam, man, everything is rocking and rolling and we're fantastic. I think it's important to take the top of the show to talk about those things that we're grateful for. But I have definitely had some moments over the last couple of weeks where I have had like waves of sadness, waves of depression, and waves of funk. And it's interesting, especially in the season that's been happening with COVID. I think that I've talked about it before on the show, specifically with these shows that we were doing that was leading up to the top of the year in January, because I've talked about it before. It's like typically in the past, January's always been a low month for me, you know, where I had to do stuff to kind of like course correct myself and make sure that I was keeping myself busy and keeping on track. This year, so much stuff is upside down. I literally feel like I am experiencing some of this back. I feel like I'm experiencing some of this now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, and when you think about it seasonally, right? Like December 21st, 22nd is usually the longest day of the, or excuse me, the shortest day of the year. So the longest night. And if you're thinking about this opposites, right, of where we are in sort of October, the opposite of this is going to be like late February, you know, it's going to be like in February when we're sort of in that same thing, right? It's weird. I mean, this weird, I don't know. I know some people that have to deal with this, right? They literally deal with a thing, which is it's seasonal, like seasonal disorder, where it's a thing where like all of a sudden, like the effects and all that stuff of the time changes. Anyway, my point with all of this was that I have been going through some of this stuff and that I've had to do some stuff specifically over the last couple of weeks to really, his family is perfect, you know, he's got stuff going with work, this guy, right?
Are you talking about me or you?
Yes, I'm talking about you. right?
Oh, me.
Yes.
Sure.
How is that for you? Is there times where you feel like you get that pressure from people that are, watching or connecting with you, or?
I don't. And it's just because like I'm at a point in my life where I feel like everybody who is watching our shows every week, everybody who knows me, is like understands that I'm like a human being. Like I'm not while people might be like, "Oh my gosh, like Paul, you do great work." Like I'm not a Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not like some imperfect human. I'm not George Clooney to anybody, because I think that one thing that I've always tried to do in any of my work is to show vulnerability and to be honest, show like not put up a front like a fake Paul out there. And so I'm just so thankful, like, and it wasn't always like easy for me to accept like this is who I am and what people see. For like just like a silly example, like I missed my Saturday night show 2 Saturdays ago, and
Right.
Our friend Stephanie guest hosted, and like Jamie made a joke on the show while I was gone about how sensitive I am, and like it got a lot of laughs. And like maybe in the past I would have been like, why would you do that? But people like were texting me and writing me, oh, maybe don't watch this part of the show. Like my friends who watched the show were like concerned that I would be like super upset. But like it's one of those things where it's just like I understand that about me. And I know, like, from all the conversations we've had about the Kickstarter for my movie, like I know I'm not perfect. And that to me is like one of my like biggest, what I consider biggest failures in life. But there's just still I feel nothing but support from my support system. So like it's there's pressure, but it's not like I just feel so supported in all of the creative work that I do. And I'm so grateful for that. And for everybody out there, thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah. It's pretty darn amazing, dude.
And
It's
I wanted
pretty
to say real quick, while everybody's here in the YouTube chat, Charity wrote her first poem this week.
Wow.
And congratulations. That is awesome.
Excellent, man. Super, super, super proud of her. I got to give a shout out to her sister Dari too. Her sister
No,
Dari and
I'm sorry. It wasn't her first poem. I know she writes poetry. She's been wanting to write another poem. She wrote it this week. And you're talking about Christina and her sister Dari. But Charity lives in Utah.
Sorry about that.
She said they just got their first snow, and she finally wrote that poem she's been wanting to write. That's amazing.
Love it. I saw those C's in the thing and I got all confused. My
CHs.
apologies.
Yeah, no.
I saw those CHs. I just knew it. Congratulations on getting the poem done, which is amazing. Dari's been rocking it. We've been working on some stuff. She's been doing page counts. We're getting together this week to talk about the stuff that she's working on as well. So this is the place, guys, to come and to just get it done, right? To just get it done. I would say this, Paul, talking about what, as you were talking about that, and that having that support system is such an important thing. And it's something that I have learned to embrace. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. There was definitely a period in my life where I was navigating a lot of this stuff alone. Even though I would be in family situations and extended family situations. And I would also, have friendly relationships with people at work. But in terms of getting into true like friendships and really talking about stuff, and this was something that I really had to learn with guys, because this was a thing that I had just not done in my life. Right. It's like all of a sudden I went from being, a guy that was living at home in high school and college and still living at home in college. And then boom, I immediately went into getting married and being an extended family life. And I realized like I was never really getting the opportunity to talk to other people about what was going on. I was talking to Kate about it, but sometimes, and I don't know what your experience is. We'll go a little bit deep with this, but there are things that we get to talk about with our spouses. But and I'll admit this here on this thing, I believe that I was in a habit where when I would get into some of my downward spirals or feeling like things just weren't going my way, I just felt like consistently all I was doing was just dumping that stuff on Kate. Well, if you're hearing that on the audio podcast, we're having a fire alarm.
Maddie's just been begging for attention in the chat and in the air tonight.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna roll with this, right?
Yep. Let's find out what that note is. Hang on.
Hold on a second. Maybe I should. Here's what. Are you gonna make it? You're gonna.
Oh, this is. May I introduce you to my new mini guitar, Guinevere?
Oh yeah,
beautiful.
Please. Here's what I'm gonna do while you do that for a second. I'm gonna turn off my mic and see if this helps. Hold on.
That helps. I was trying to find the note though.
Here it is.
Oh, it's two different notes. The fire alarm song. No, but I found this little baby guitar. I don't know exactly what the term is for it, but and I picked it up in Guitar Center and I started playing it and I fell in love with it like immediately. And I was like, I must have this. And
did you do that? Whereabouts did you find that exactly? Which Guitar Center? Sorry.
Westlake Village, actually. It was a couple of weekends ago. We were celebrating, with certain credit cards, you get free nights at hotels, and if you don't use them, they go away, and then you gotta find dumb reasons to stay the next town over from where you live. But we were celebrating, actually, last weekend was my 1-year anniversary in my new position at work. And that means that like, I'm not an at-will employee anymore. It's called like your first year, you're on probation. Mm-hmm. And then like after that first year, you got to really screw up to get fired. So we were celebrating me getting off probation. And so I found this guitar and I was like, oh my God, I'm in love. And Jamie was like, get it. Like, you deserve it.
That's amazing.
Hard. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So
fire alarms have all turned off.
Excellent.
You know what, Paul? Here's the deal. We're just changing all of this up. That's what this is, right? A lot of this stuff is just about, and you know what? If you're on the audio podcast, I probably edited out a lot of that stuff.
Yep.
So be it.
They don't even need to know that anything happened. All you have to say is, usually I'm dumping it all on Kate, and then go from there. I know how this works.
Well, the interesting thing is, I love this. Can we please read the comments for a second? Right? It was like literally as soon as it happened. Congratulations, Dari, on everything you're doing there. Here it is. Cherry flambe for dessert. Maddie, stop burning down the house. Oh, look at that. Somebody said that the dog was trying to figure out where the noise was coming from. Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Hey man, sometimes you just have to roll with the flow. I guess, listen, what a great way to dovetail part of this, right? Is these are some of the thoughts that came to my mind. I used to dump a lot of this stuff on Kate, and it just wasn't fair because over time it's like she ultimately couldn't solve all of it. And the fact is that over time I was able to start communicating with other guys. And that's not to say that I don't have the conversations with Kate about the rough stuff. Absolutely. But there's also other people to help me lighten the burden. And I have found that with other guys over the years, and also other people that are in my circle, which I've talked about, the personal board of directors and stuff, the people to call me on my junk, right? the people to call me on my junk, and at times the people that are able to sort of pull me out of what this funk is. And I think, this was going through my head today, Paul, which is we as human beings, we're so wildly attracted to stories, movies, plays, novels, things that tie things up, right? There's a reason why these forms really translated from ancient Greek all the way down, because what did it do? It put life into an understandable format, right? It was something where it was like you could go, oh, there's a beginning, there's a hardship, and then there's a victory or something at the end, right? There's a little, it's an encapsulation of it.
Yeah.
And I think that at times, the truth of it is that life isn't that, but we can always strive and hope for that. And I think that sometimes we want to put the storybook ending or the storybook format on everything that happens in our life, and that's not necessarily the case, but we do get to go through continuous growing cycles. And I think it's something like The Princess Bride, right? Like The Princess Bride is one of those things of like, Buttercup and Wesley, right? They were all the greatest kisses. This was the greatest one and the greatest love, right? And people that watch that just go, yes, I don't have that.
Right.
Why don't I have that, right? Life isn't that. Life isn't that, but it can become beautiful and deeper. And there's other things that we learn along the way with our relationships that we grow deeper. I've experienced this in my own marriage. I think that you've experienced this in your marriage, Paul, where it's like where you guys start out, where I started out with Kate, you start out with the goo goo gaga stuff and the fact that you guys are so madly in love, right? Well, physically, that stuff starts to go away after a while. There's actually a biochemical element to it. Did you know there's a biochemical element that starts firing off with all of our pheromones? Because it's literally saying, you guys need to start making babies, right? And did you know that a couple of years into a relationship with somebody, that those pheromones between partners disappear? They go away. And that's why you always see high divorce rates and things like that, where you hear people saying, well, the magic's gone. It's not the same way. But I always say this, but that's when the beautiful, deeper stuff starts to happen. That's where you start to get through some of the harder, difficult things that happen, and you grow together and you learn more together. And I feel like you grow deeper in it. And as much as people want the constant, the sugary, the rainbows, all of that other stuff, I truly feel that in relationships that there's something even deeper and stronger that grows through that. Look at this. I've talked about this and I've turned it into a relationship counseling hour. Great.
No, I mean, yes, but it's the yin and yang thing. I was thinking about this a lot this past week on Sunday, actually, when I had nothing to do and I was left to my own mind. How like we need the downs to feel the ups. Mm-hmm. If you're just up all the time, like I think that's probably year 2 of the relationship where you're just like, like if anything bad happens, it's like, what?
Yes.
What's happened? Like you have to find a balance. You have to be balanced in life. And I think that, it's interesting that you brought that up, because like there's nothing more memorable in life, at least in my experience, than the start of a new relationship. Mm-hmm. Or like the leading up to and the right after, like everything is new and exciting, and like there's so many questions, but like usually there's a happy ending at the end of the day, like not like happy ending like that, but
Paul, I was not going to say that. I was not going to go that way.
All right.
Now the YouTube stream is going to be filled.
No,
okay, that it can end happily.
Right. For people, like I know there's a lot of people who like their first relationship, like their first boyfriend or girlfriend they ended up marrying. And I had dated maybe like 6 girls before I got married. But I was always in it for like the long run. Like I was always looking for the one. And whenever it didn't work out, like I felt like I failed.
Yeah.
But so what I was going to say is like two girls in my life broke up with me because their reasoning was, if we stay together, I'm going to end up marrying you.
What do you think that was? What do you think that was? I mean, I don't want to, we're going to mind read with them for a second. We're going to mind. What do you think that was?
Well, I know what it was. They wanted to date. They wanted to see different guys. They wanted to like test the waters and like just like have different experiences. What, like literally the second girl that said this to me, who was the second to last girl before Jamie, but she said, like, you know what I would love is if like we broke up and then like 3 years later got back together and like that was it. And I was like,
yeah, it
doesn't work like that. If you're not happy with me now, we're not like.
I have to say, man, this is where I'm going to give you kudos, man. I'm so proud of you with the relationship that you have with Jamie and with the family. Because I will say this, Paul, that there's a number of, I'm going to get in trouble with some people that listen to this. There were a number of guys that I saw that were usually 10 or 15 years younger than me, who were absolutely petrified of marriage. Like the idea of marriage or doing that was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And it's like an eternal Peter Pan syndrome. It's like an eternal, like, I just want to be a kid. I just want to be this. I don't want to be let down. I want to be able to have fun with girls and do all this stuff. And, I would tend to see that type of behavior because I get it. I understand it's scary. I understand and they may not have the best examples from their past. I will also credit them with that. Usually these guys came from, homes where, there was a divorce or there was messy stuff that they saw in the marriage. I totally understand that. But to think that that's going to repeat with you is a completely different thing. And I have seen a few of those guys that played that game, of like, never, I don't do that, and then all of a sudden, they're getting close to 50 and kind of going, gee, I really wish I had some, and listen, that's a very large generality. And please, my apologies if that's something that tended to sting, but it's also something that I saw with a lot of guys in our creative circles, where I just went, what are you doing, man? Just like go for it, like commit, like, get married, have a child, like go for it. I don't know.
We've come a long way around the whole point that I was trying to make, which was the starting of something new, whether it's a relationship or it's a new creative project. It's exciting. It gets you going. It's very easy to be inspired. But it's like once that will become normalized. Yes. Once that happens, like, how do you stay in it and stay as committed and dedicated to it as you were when it was brand new? And I think that how easily that comes to you says a lot for how much truth your heart is invested in it.
Yes.
And like, so my example, which took us on a total left turn, was like, everything can be new and exciting, but find the things that bring you that even through the hard times. Find that balance where like you're yin and you're yang. You can be up and down. And when you're in a funk, what's the best way to get out of it? Is there a right answer to that? Or is it like individualized? Is it just a matter of listening to your heart and finding what helps you bring you toward the brighter side of things?
Well, I think this, man, and I think that we're both going to have examples because I think it's going to be individually up to people. I can talk about some things that I know work for me, and I'm sure that there's some things that can work for you. Um, and I think it's interesting that we're using relationships as sort of the example for this. Um, but I think that small little action is the first step. Small little action is usually the first step. Say, for example, if there's an issue or a dry period that's going on in a relationship or in a marriage, right? All right, what's that time where I go, what's my 15 to 20 minutes a day where I am sitting down with my wife, phones off, and we're having just a cup of coffee and just talking with each other. And we're not talking about the things that we have to do or what we got to do with the kids or any of that other stuff or what's going on with the news. It's a, how are you? What's going on with you? How do you feel? Why do you feel that way? And listening and talking, right? So that's a small little action I could do, a small little 15-minute action of just sitting down and saying to do it. Or another, and again, these are just examples that I use for myself for getting out of a funk. For me personally, sometimes it is a simple action of going, all right, what's one small little part of the house that I can just clean for the next 20 minutes? You'll find for me that I tend to do like little 20-minute chunks, anywhere between 12 to 20-minute chunks of something, because normally when I just get rolling, that's a thing that helps. It's also a thing that I talked about with going out for the walk. I did therapy a number of years ago, and it was one of the things that my therapist talked to me about, which was, hey, Kevin, do yourself a favor. At the very least, could you promise me to at least walk outside for 10 minutes? Just walk outside, because you'll get a little bit of fresh air. And if the sun's out, you'll get a little bit of vitamin D. And even that will help you just a little bit. And for me, sometimes, man, it's the believe it until you see it. I used to say, fake it till you make it, until somebody said this other phrase, believe it till you see it. And I use that specifically for me, again, just being transparent on here. Sometimes sometimes I don't even want to pray. Sometimes I don't want to pray. Sometimes I don't want to do any of that stuff. I'm in that much of a funk where I just go, I'm done. And then those are those times where I feel like I've got to pick up, like I've talked about a couple of weeks ago on this podcast, where I go and find scripture or find those things that I've written down in the past that I know that will help me, certain passage of scripture or a worship song, or even a song that's just going to make me feel good for a little bit. Matthew McConaughey was just interviewed the other day on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's talking about things that he does every day as sort of like his little activities that he does. I would not that. It is called Green Light, though, isn't it? So his book is called Green Light. But he was talking about a few things that he does, and I recommend give a listen to that. It's a good thing. Paul, how about you, man? What are the things that you do to try?
Well, tell me, you teased me. Give me some example. What does Matthew McConaughey do?
Matthew McConaughey, man, he always likes to break a sweat every day. That's one of his things he does, right? What's one of the things he says? If you break a sweat, there's something that physically happens with your body. Where he actually described it very well. He said instead of feeling like all the things that you have to do are stacked vertically on top of you, where you feel like you've got this pressure of all this stuff to get done for the day, he says for him, once he breaks that sweat, instead of it all being stacked vertically, now it's all just sort of laid out in front of him, where now he can just go to the next thing instead of feeling that pressure. He does get a lot of sleep. Matthew McConaughey gets 9.5 hours of sleep, man.
Dang, he's like my wife.
Good for her. Yeah. Some people need that, man. Actually, statistically, they show that women need more sleep than men. And you know that Michael Phelps and some of these other guys that are, take it easy. I didn't mean to make that comparison, but it did happen.
Like to smoke and sleep.
When he was training, he would usually try to get about 9.5 hours of sleep a day when he was in the middle of all of his competitions.
Yeah.
So sleeping is one of the things, making sure that he breaks a sweat. He does versions of prayer and meditation. Those are some things that help him, you know?
That's awesome.
How about yourself, buddy? What are some techniques that you use?
Well, it depends on the funk that I'm in, but I find that like a lot of times, like a lot of what I do is virtual, especially these days on the computer. It's getting ready for a show. It's like throughout the week, getting a show lined up, getting the graphics made, getting like it's a lot of work. And like even at work, like even as the community affairs manager of a police department, it's like a lot of what I do is on the computer. Especially during the times of COVID. And I've noticed lately that like I just start to feel like I'm living in my computer and I need to get out of it. So I've found that just like doing stuff, I mean, I always do stuff around the house, but like finding something to do. Kevin, you've probably never heard of this concept, but like taking a timer and like setting aside like a chunk of time to do something. No, but like I wish
I'd patented it.
I give you so much grief for that, but it's true. Like I found like maybe like a week and a half ago, I started doing this. If I'm like, computer, I'm like just living in it. Like go, not, it doesn't always have to be cleaning, but there's always something to clean. But like, go put this together, go do that, do something tangible in a house, in like in your space that makes you feel good. I remember listening to your podcast like years ago, the Kevin Gregg show, with Jeremy Van Cleve, and you guys were talking about making your bed in the morning.
Yes.
And like how that's the best way to start your day because like you feel like, ooh, I just did something and feel good about it. Bring it on, day.
Yes.
And that was the first time I heard that. And I remember like to this day, I do it now because like, it's such a good thing. Not because I'm like trying to be clean or like a good husband or anything. I'm just like, it's the first win. It's like, boom. What now, Jay?
That's it. There's something to be said about physical work. I think that's why I go back to a dishes thing or stuff like that. Jordan Peterson talks about that, about making your bed, about doing those little things that it's a little victory. And something happens when we do these little victories where all of a sudden it just gets you out of yourself for a second, you know? It makes it just so, and honestly, that thing that you said about, especially in this day and age of unplugging from the computer and just taking a moment to just go, what's something I can physically do right now? Actually, oddly enough, I do little Sudoku puzzles, you know. Now I have them. Here's a funny thing that I do on my Sabbath, right? So I used to do a Sudoku thing that was on my phone. You know what I do? I actually get I get a notepad, and what I'll do is I'll get the puzzle. I'll write down the numbers from the puzzle on the phone, and I'll usually I'll physically write down 4 or 5 of those unsolved puzzles, and then I'll just go in and solve the puzzle just using a pen and paper instead of doing it on a phone. Do you know what Sudoku is at all? You have no idea what Sudoku is, do you?
I think you're saying it wrong, unless I've always called it Sudoku.
Sudoku.
See, Sudoku.
Here's a weird thing, right?
I think I always called it Sudoku.
What's the one thing that we can't do with YouTube comments right now? Hey everybody, how do you say it? Unless somebody like actually phonetically spells it. Sudoku. How do you say it?
Sudoku.
Sudoku. That's what I say. Sudoku. Who's gonna? See, now everybody's just spelling. Now everybody's just spelling the same thing.
No, that's different. Yeah, Melissa and Dari. Melissa said Sudoku. Dari said Sudoku.
Sudoku. What did I say? Is that what you said?
That's what I said. You said Sudoku.
Sudoku. They love it.
Just riveting podcast entertainment right here.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me start some more fire alarms in the house.
Let's talk about failed relationships.
Well, I'm going to tell you, hands down, this has been the craziest podcast I've had with you yet. So,
wow.
Anyway, that's all I can say. I physically write down Sudoku. Yeah, there's a U at the end. Sudoku? I don't even know.
Sudoku. That's what I say.
Now I'm going to have to go back and check it all out.
All right. Well, anyway, like I'm glad that helps you.
Me too.
Get out of the funk. Like for like a long time, like I love crosswords for sure.
Yes.
And that is such a big thing. And now like I fell into that thing where it's like, I'm going to get the crossword on my phone or my iPad. And then it's just like, it's not the same because now I'm just still plugged in.
No.
You gotta be writing. You got to be doing the stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's just that thing. It's just a thing with the screens right now. And again, not to say huge proponent of technology and everything. I think it's awesome. I think that's the thing, man. If somebody can, and I know that there's a couple of companies that are out there now that have got like, there's one thing that's called like Remarkable, which is like it's very similar to a first generation Kindle. You know, the first generation Kindle was very almost like paper white when you would look at it with the screen. There's a company out there that has this thing called Remarkable, which is it's all digital, but it's not like backlit like the same way a lot of these digital things are. Right. I think if somebody dials that part of it in with the stuff that we have to go to, and like if it literally is like it feels like notebooks, but it has like a digital element where it's not messing with the brainwaves as much, I'd be all right with that. So,
hey Kevin,
yeah, buddy,
we have like 8 minutes before the sexy Jesus starts reading us poetry, but I want to touch on something that you touched on briefly, I think, with the Matthew McConaughey thing. Mm-hmm. And that was meditation. Do you do it? And what is your routine if so?
Well, I'll tell you what. I see that producer Craig put a link to a meditation thing. I will tell you, my version of meditation is more of written prayer. That's what I do. So normally in the morning, my version of that is, if I can, and this is an ideal situation, if I can, it's usually about me reading scripture or reading a spiritual book. And once I have done that, to sit for a minute to absorb what it is that I have just read. And sometimes it's not just about getting through all of it. Sometimes it could be a word or a phrase that pops out at me, and spend that moment in silence. And for me to take that moment to see, all right, God, what is it that you're trying to tell me today? And normally my prayer is usually a written version. And the written version usually consists of something like this, which is talking about things that I have learned from yesterday, things where I need help, and also trying to think about ways that I can help other people. One of the simplest prayers that I can usually do every day when I hit the floor, I learned this from Rick Warren, is, God, help me to love you more today. Help me to learn more about you, and help me to love other people today. That's my three things that are probably the simplest prayer. The only other simplest prayer that I could say other than that is just, God help. That's it. God help. So that's sort of a very easy version for me. Paul, do you do any version of prayer meditation at all, or is it a regular thing that you do? Or
yeah, I pray. I don't think I have a regular routine. I should. I talk to God when I'm really happy. I talk to God when I'm sad. I talk to God when I'm worried. I don't have like a set times of day, but of meditation, like it is something that it's the craziest thing, Kevin. Like I love it. Like the traditional style, sit in silence, clear your mind, and just be. I like love it so much. and I never take time to do it. And when I do, I'm always like, God, I got to do that every day. Like, why don't I do that every day?
Yeah.
And I like, oh, I wish I had a routine. I got to get myself, maybe that'll be like my New Year's thing.
Maybe it is. I think it's helpful. Can I tell you something, Paul? Again, I think it's helpful for something to do with people. So for example, during this entire pandemic, there's like 3 times a week in the mornings where I gather together with a couple of guys online for 20 minutes where we do a specific prayer devotional 3 times a week. There were some other people that I was joining with for a while where we're doing a little bit of a guided meditation, but I ended up opting for this other thing. But again, there's something to be said when I know that there's at least 6 to 10 guys that are going to be showing up from 7 to 7:20 in the morning, 3 times a week, I show up and I do it, you know?
Yeah.
So just a thought for you, buddy. I mean, especially because you found the benefits of it.
Yeah.
That maybe it's something to find like-minded people and to say, let's do it, you know? Just
All
a
right.
thought.
Who wants to be in my meditation club?
Uh-oh, the entire thing's, they're blowing up, man. You guide it.
We're gonna hold each other accountable, and we're gonna do it.
Well, and then here's the thing, Paul, because then what you do in a situation like that is you not only show up, but then it's a thing where then you pass it around, where you then have other people that do the stuff. So Charity's in. She raised her hand. So
all right, let's do it, Charity. Maddie's gonna bring us chicken.
It's roasted chicken. Well, listen. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to end it because we got that other thing that's coming up, the poetry reading with Hunter Ackerman in just a little bit. So we don't want to miss that. For those of you that are on the audio podcast, thanks so much for listening. I can't wait to see how this edited version comes out.
I'll just say now, great job on editing this episode, Kevin. That was flawless.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And if you thought Kevin's editing was flawless as well, you can leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people, other creators, other pressure power washers, other leaf meditators find us and enjoy the show. We appreciate you being here with us every week. Kevin, you like this show is like all driven by your heart. So thank you for everything you do. And for another amazing episode.
Hey, Paul, thank you for inviting me to start this. And I'm just really grateful. Like every week that I do it, like, honestly, it's talk about showing up for a guided meditation. I'm so grateful for this show every week. So thanks for thinking of it and planting the seed and being there and dealing with my shenanigans.
Thank you for dealing with mine.
All right, everybody. I'll tell you what, I think we're going to end all of it right now, but thank you, YouTube folks. You guys are rock stars. God bless you. Talk to Paul about guided meditation. We'll see everyone next week, next Monday. We're going to have a series of Mondays because we're not doing election night, but we're doing the Monday before election night. And then the week after that, we got James Arnold Taylor is coming back on the show.
Is he?
He will. I shouldn't say coming back on the show. I say he's coming on the show.
He's scheduled on the show.
He's scheduled on the show. All right. Everybody on YouTube, thank you so much. We will see you guys next week. God bless you. Paul, I'm going to end the live stream and I'll see you in a little bit. Bye, gang.
Bye, everybody.